Hey everyone, we welcome you to When Love Interrupts. This is Travis, and this is my co-host,
Charity.
Charity. We're so excited today. We have Semler with us, and we've been waiting for this interview, getting ready, and just so excited to have you. So, Semler, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
so honored. Yes. I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been listening to you for years now. And when I was first started questioning and kind of like going through a little bit of a deconstruction, I ended up finding Jesus from Texas. That was one of the first songs. And I remember hearing it and being like, oh my God. Like, I don't have to completely give up, my spirituality to, you know, fall in line. It was hard. I grew up very fundamentalist and everything. And so I'm so excited to talk about your new album. I love the country version, like the bluegrassy country version of it. It feels like home to me. And I love that I get to listen to this style of music now, and like resonate with it. It's just amazing. I've never been a big bluegrass or country person because of the kind I was kind of forced to listen to growing up. It's like quartets more, like Christian quartet, all that fun stuff. But anyway, I would love to know my favorite line from that song. One of them, there's many I love, but one of my favorite lines is when you talk about how you think now about the ones that you love before you vote, and that you might not even know yet, that line. And that spoke to me so deeply because that's how I wanted to start voting and looking at the world and trying to vote for what will help the most amount of people, what will take the least rights away, even if it doesn't affect me or anybody I know. And I would just love for you to talk about that, like where that inspiration came from. And
Sure. I think that it's healthy to have a good degree of skepticism for people running for political office. I am not like a down the line, like
me neither.
true blue party voter. I think it's important that we hold people in positions of power to account. So, but I also know that growing up in a religious household, it was sort of this unquestioned thing of like, and we're Christian, and so we're like Republicans mostly.
Yeah.
And when you're younger, you don't question that. When you're younger, the world is presented to you in a certain type of way, by the people who are your caregivers, and not even necessarily assigning fault to that, but you
Mhm.
don't question things. Then you get
No.
older, and questioning is so good and so healthy.
Yes.
And I think that that line is just about wanting to use whatever power we have in our vote to further the Christian values that I hold dear, which is to look after the least of these. And so
Mhm.
when you look at what people are putting on their political agendas, I want to think of the marginalized,
Yeah.
because that is how I interpret the teachings of Jesus. And
Mhm.
so that view um, is a bit different than just voting down the party line. And it was an
Right.
adjustment that happened as I sort of came of age in my 20s.
Mhm.
And I'm not living with my parents anymore, and I meet all different sorts of people, and my worldview and how I grew up, my upbringing was challenged, and I think that was a really
Yeah.
good thing. And part
Oh,
of
that's
that
beautiful.
challenging was in the political realm of like, how do I vote, and what am I
Mhm.
voting in support of, and how
Mhm.
can I be in support of the people who need that the most.
Exactly. I love that. That's how I feel lately, especially. Do you want to ask a question, Travis? Sorry.
Now, I just want to follow up with that and just say thank you for sharing that. And as you kind of look at the landscape of where we are now,
Mm.
in your own spirituality, kind of in your own journey, who do you feel like we need to be praying for and protecting right now as you look out?
Well,
Mm.
I certainly am thinking, especially here in Los Angeles, that we need to look out for our immigrant population.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of the trans community as well,
Mhm.
what we can do to further a free Palestine within this country. But I just think that when we look at those who wield power in this country, overwhelmingly, we know what that
Yep.
demographic is. And so
Mhm.
how can we empower those who historically have not had it?
Mhm.
Um, and that's, I think, has been a frustration of mine within the Christian church. It was an early
Mhm.
part of my deconstruction is we can look at census reports and we know who needs our help. And why is that the communities that seemingly are the most taboo within some church culture? That was so
Yeah.
frustrating for me. We know that like trans women of color are disproportionately
Oh,
impacted by violence. Why isn't that at the top of the heap of where
exactly.
we're sending our youth groups, of where we're sending our resources? It just, that was a little bit of that cognitive dissonance for me early on that
Mhm.
led to a really healthy deconstruction. I'm so thankful
Yes.
for that process because I really think it opened me up to to challenging perspectives and different worldviews and walks of life and how beautiful it all is and like how that really is like the fullness of Christ to me.
Absolutely. That's how
Mhm.
I feel. I feel like my deconstruction was very healthy too, and as I came out of it, I grew up Pentecostal, so, it's very much all about, um, receiving the Spirit, speaking in tongues, all these different things, and I would just pray and pray and pray and pray and pray for that, and I never received it, even though I thought I was just being so genuine, and it was like as soon as I started to take things away and read for myself, and learn for myself, I've had, like, 2 beautiful spiritual moments that were just like peace, just, like, coming over me that I'd never felt before, and it's funny that it took leaving a community and leaving church behind to actually find that, and Travis is a
Yeah,
big part of that. He started a, really cool, it's called Sacred Ale, and it's at a bar, and we meet once a month, and we
that's
just
so cool.
yeah, it's awesome, and that it literally
Sacred
here
ale.
very yeah, it's awesome, and we have
Mhm.
beer, and we just talk about whatever we wanna talk about, what's going on. He'll bring some questions we might, talk about, answer, and I had just never felt so welcome in a place as I
So is
did
it
when I
sort of like a Bible study?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes we do delve into scripture verses if they happen to
Mhm.
be relevant or they get brought up. But typically we go in with just a question more about spirituality and life and how that intersects, or for some people, how it doesn't. And we
Mhm.
explore that. Sometimes we'll have guests come in that bring the topic, but there's a lot of times that scripture may get woven into the conversation, but it isn't necessarily the beginning part of the
Mm.
conversations.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I
Yeah.
feel like I have a lot of conversations here in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
especially because I work in a creative field, and so I'm around a
Mhm.
lot of songwriters, producers, creatives, and I love that so much. And I know a lot of people, and maybe it's just because of my own artistry and walk and whatever, but a lot of people who grew up in church who have gone through some form of deconstruction, formal or
Mhm.
less than, and a lot of us have not really lamented, but have just sort of talked about, wouldn't it I wish there was a place for us to gather and commune.
Yeah.
And I think that when churches are at their best, because I get the question
Mhm.
sometimes about like, what do you want for the future of the church? I hope that if I'll be misunderstood if people think that I'm like anti-church. That's not how I
Yeah.
feel. But I do think that like I'm not interested in going to churches where it's largely sort of lip service or where the
Yes.
pastor is like the king or something.
Exactly.
I think churches are at their best when they are community and neighborhood driven. When we
Yes.
are there in service, when you get to know your neighbors more,
Mhm.
you know what people need, meal
Yeah.
trains. It's like the
Oh.
superpowers of churches.
Mhm.
Singing
Mhm.
songs in a group, it bonds people together. That's really what I'm after, what I'm looking for, what I'm interested in,
Mhm.
and what when I talk to other people my age or younger,
Mhm.
that's what gets people really excited about, I wish there was a place where we could,
Yeah.
gather. Or a friend of mine was like, "I would be really open to just an sort of an agendaless Bible study." And what I mean by
Mhm.
agendaless is like, because I don't know if y'all feel this way, but like I can hear a voice in my head being like, well, the agenda has to be the word of God.
Yes.
I'm
Mhm.
like, I hear you.
Yeah.
Hold on, let
Yeah.
me finish my thought.
Mhm.
Like, I think the agenda could be just loving each other well and
Mhm.
having conversations where scripture is there or something else. And it sounds like that's what
It
you're
is.
doing.
That
very
is
much.
exactly what we're doing. And when I think about that, something you said just became really powerful for me to bring scripture kind of to the point here. In I think it's Gospel of John in the first chapter, it says the Word became flesh and dwelt in the neighborhood.
Mm,
What is it? Maybe it is scripture when we're together in flesh and we're dwelling
mhm,
together.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree, and I love this.
Mhm.
Travis is too modest to even bring this up, but he's about to get his doctoral degree in fresh expressions of church, which is
Cool.
literally that. It's like these little hubs of community, where everyone's invited. I mean, even at Sacred Ale, how many atheists do we have that come? Like 3 or 4? Yeah, my husband's an
Yeah,
atheist.
at least three.
Mhm,
So
Mhm.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
we really do all share the same values,
mhm,
even if it's not necessarily the same belief system. And to
mhm,
me, that's just become way more important than
mhm.
following a certain religion or anything like.
Yeah, a big point for me in my deconstruction where I realize, like, that's just a fundamental shift of how I look at the world and people,
Mm.
is that I really believe that people were created with good hearts, and especially since I've become a parent.
Mhm.
I'm around so many babies and children now, and it is r I don't I can't square it. And
Yeah.
it was kind of a funny point with
Yeah.
Lizzie and I, my wife, where we would be like, "I
Mhm.
wonder, like, when if we hadn't deconstructed, like, when would Frances's first sin have been? Like, when
Mm.
did she start sinning?" Like, and that's such
I
an
know.
unhealthy way of looking at people in the world. I'm not saying that we don't mess up and fall short. Of course we do. We don't that we hurt
Absolutely.
people and that there are
Sure.
patterns of behavior. Of course, of course.
Mhm.
But it's changed for me when I think of people as fundamentally good and created with value and worth, and to look for that every day, to look for God in
Yeah.
the people that you see every day as best as you can. And we don't all
Mhm.
get it right, of course, but that shift between looking at the world that way versus we are all broken sinners,
Mm.
we deserve death,
It's
and
just
we're
I
just
know.
walking targets. That's like a big, that's when I say I'm thankful for deconstruction, because I think I move through the world just with this sense of relaxation of like, of every person is beautiful and loved and whole, and I don't and it's not my responsibility
Mhm.
to fix another person or to find what's wrong with them or to locate their sin or whatnot. Why don't
Yes.
I locate what makes them beautiful and what makes them laugh? Like,
Oh.
why don't I look for
Absolutely.
that instead? And it's really
Absolutely.
changed my perspective.
Oh, wow. I really needed to
That's so
hear
good.
that, honestly. Yes, thank you, 'cause that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I think our Hindu brothers and sisters have this really figured out, and I mentioned this at Sacred Ale a couple of
Mhm.
nights ago. The whole idea of Namaste is this: the divine
Mhm.
in me recognizes the divine in you. And it
Yes.
is. It's not looking for the bad. It's looking for who we are, the core of
Yeah.
the goodness,
Yep.
um, that we bear that image or
Mhm.
creation. I mean, it's there in us and there in everyone if we're willing to find it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that's funny, Travis, because after you said that, or I remember we were talking about that, I used your new song similar. I was like, the one, Amen at the very beginning
Mhm.
when you're talking to somebody, I'm not sure who it is, but
Well,
like,
that's Reverend Jackie Lewis, and she's so much smarter than me and
okay,
so much more wisdom and spiritual
I love
gifts than
it.
I do, so I had to
Well,
clip that out.
that was gorgeous though. And I'm gonna write her name down because I'd love to speak to her sometime.
Mhm,
But
Mhm.
when she said, we only know God because we know each other. And I said that, in Sacred Ale, and everybody was just like,
mhm.
it is so true. And I am curious, have you gotten it tattooed on your body yet? Because
No, I've gotten a lot more since then, but
oh,
I haven't but I probably should.
you
The way
definitely
that I get
should.
tattoos, my tattoo philosophy is pretty random, just sort of if I feel like it that day.
Yeah.
Um, I know it's weird that I'm, in my 30s and I treat my body
Mm-mm.
like a scrapbook, but, that's
Really?
sort of
I'm
how
in
I
my
think of it.
30s. I do the same
Yeah.
thing. You're good. Yeah.
But I think of it that way, and
Mhm.
so I probably will one day. It'll just be
Yeah.
like when I'm in New York and I'll remember, because I we met each other in New York, and that's when, she said that. But it's really true when you think of, like, and the word became flesh, and you think about
Mm.
that Jesus being made in our image, and how all of us are so different, and how do you how do we embody that by meeting each
Yeah.
other with curiosity rather than
Yeah.
skepticism or
Yeah.
suspicion, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. And one thing you described kind of earlier, what you and your friends in LA have talked about, you wish there was like a non-formal Bible study.
Mhm.
I truly feel like that is part of the future of
Mhm.
religious community, or maybe don't want to use the word religious, but spiritual connective communities,
Yeah.
is having this non-agenda where,
Mhm.
we don't have the overhead of brick and mortar, and we don't have something to worry about in terms of structure. It's getting together and truly have an authentic community where we can express our desires, our wants, our needs, attend to our brother, sister as we need to. To me, that's such a beautiful concept, what the early church, at least I believe, was intended to be, and how it often functioned, at least from what we know historically, and how far we've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but it probably is akin to early church of just gathering,
Mhm.
almost nomadic in a
Mhm.
Mhm.
sense. And certainly there were people who were in charge of the organizing and the managerial aspects, of course, but that it was much more flowing in a sense that it could accommodate the different changing lives and schedules
Yes.
of people, you
Yes.
know?
Mhm.
And, I do think that there is something there when we talk about revival. It's not a new thing to say, like, "I think the revival will actually be this." Like, I think you hear
Mhm.
that from all sides of, the Christian
Yeah.
perspective, and I think that could be something we start seeing more of. I think that a huge misconception about going through deconstruction is that you then sometimes
Lose
people do
everything.
lose their appetite or
Yeah, no.
interest for
Mhm.
spirituality. Fair enough. But
Yes.
oftentimes, when you start kind of like lifting up these stones and seeing what's underneath them, at
Mhm.
least in my case and in the case of many of my peers,
Yeah.
you wind up more curious and
Oh, yeah.
wanting to learn more. Your appetite for these conversations, it increases, and that you want that
Absolutely.
spiritual connection and that
Mhm.
tethering to this great mysticism of whatever divinity is, and the shapes that it's come to encounter man. I think that's so interesting, and
It
I know that there's a lane for people who would like to have this more formally, and I
Yeah.
think that could be part of the revival we see.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah, I
It's
think so.
funny enough, my mom has said, she's told me because she also kind of deconstructed the same time I did. We kinda did it together, which isn't very normal,
Mhm,
so it was incredible because we had each other and we could explore and question, together. And she told me she can remember so many times sitting in our little tiny church out in the boondocks, little Pentecostal church, and the preachers would be saying, like my generation, I was little, like, "This generation is gonna lead a revival, like, I believe firmly." And my mom looks back now and she just laughs because she said, "That is exactly what y'all are doing.
mm,
You are just not doing it the way that they want it."
yeah,
And I love that because I'm like, it's so true. You never really know
Yeah.
what it's gonna be. Yeah.
But isn't that the story with Jesus in the New
Mm.
Testament? Jesus was doing everything that Jesus was supposed to be doing to fulfill whatever Jesus had come to do, but it was nothing like what the establishment wanted. It's like, no,
mhm,
no, no, not like that. Do
Yeah.
it like this.
You're doing it
mhm.
It
wrong.
was
Yep,
very,
exactly.
very different.
It
Mhm.
is.
Yeah.
Very
It's
different.
I mean, it's extremely, countercultural
Mhm.
in some ways, and then also not, because I still consider myself a Christian. I still call myself a Christian, and
Mhm.
that is actually extremely cultural in this country. And I
Mm.
recognize that too, that the circumstance I was born into, people have asked me before, do you think it's possible you were brainwashed and that's why you're sort of predisposed to this way of thinking? I'm like, absolutely, it's possible. It's maybe likely. Like, of course it is.
Mhm.
But it doesn't but I think that I'm less concerned with that at this point in time, because whatever happened,
Mhm.
I do feel I have a rich spiritual life that is important for me to nurture. So
Mhm.
now I just want to go about that as ethically as I can.
Yes.
That's great. That's
Same.
one of the things that for me is so important. Just as you just said, I still hold the term Christian very close because
Mhm.
that does matter to me. And
Mhm.
one of the things that matters is I'm not willing to give it up to those who are misrepresenting it.
Mm.
Just not willing to do
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Totally. I feel the same way too.
Yeah.
And for a while, especially before I started writing music about my
Mm,
experience, I really did not want to engage with other Christians because it was just so taxing
mm,
and exhausting, and I never really felt like I was being heard.
mhm.
And it always felt like I had to be that people would go into conversations with me of like, "And you will be wrong." And I remember thinking, "That's not that this feels not fair because I'm not doing
Yeah.
that to you. I'm telling
No.
you that we can disagree, and I do disagree with your positions and how you're interpreting scripture, and I still I'm not saying that you're not a Christian. Actually,
Yeah.
historically, that's a real Christian thing to do, like,
Yeah, yeah.
by title alone."
I know.
So yeah, so that's actually pretty consistent with the behaviors of American Christians over the last, centuries. Um, but why do I then just have to eat it? Always eat
Mhm.
it over and over again that like, oh, you're
Yeah.
not a Christian, you're not a Christian. And so I didn't want to touch it for a long time. But then
Mhm.
I think there's kind of a settling that happens after deconstruction for me. And I think finding stability in my personal life was crucial,
Mhm.
meeting my wife, getting married, and just feeling like I know who I am, this sense of peace beyond understanding that I can only attribute for me to a divine presence in my life.
Yes.
So I'm going to call myself a Christian. You're going to say that's not true. And I'm just going to say peace be with you and go about my life because I have that foundation here, whatever you say online or not. It doesn't
Mhm.
change for me.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so I do think it's important also for that visibility and that representation that we continue to
Mhm.
create spaces like this, like your podcast, like Sacred Ale,
Yes.
like that, through
Mhm.
my music, that we're just showing that there is a diverse perspective on the
Absolutely.
Christian experience. And I love that there's more of that online these days.
Yeah.
Me too. Gosh, me too. And your whole album, I feel like your new album just revival in my mind. Sorry, I should have said the name of it. Your new album, I feel like it sums up so much of that so beautifully. And when, especially coming from where I came, when you did Little Light and Amen, because they sound Amen, the chorus of that sounds so much like a hymn to me, and that's very much what I grew up in. And then Little Light, reminds me so much of Little Light I Shine
Mhm.
as a child, singing that constantly and hearing it being kind of, like, brought back into my life in a nostalgic way, but it was in a beautiful way. That wasn't I loved it, and I never thought, anything like that could
Mm.
speak to me again. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. I
Mhm.
was hopeful for that sort of resonance from people who grew up with similar sonic touch points as I did, this little light of mine. It's
Yeah.
so funny if you're around people who didn't grow up religious, which was so fascinating when I first moved to Los Angeles. I
Same.
like
Oh
didn't know
god.
that was an option. I didn't know
Yeah.
that like happened.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so what did you do on Sundays? They're like, we went to the beach. I'm like, that's
Like,
crazy.
yeah.
That's so
Hung
crazy.
out all night, yeah.
I was like, that's wild. Um, but with this little light of mine, I love that song, and I
Mm,
still love that song. I think the message of it is so encouraging,
it is.
and I think I wrote Little Light when we knew that we were expecting our daughter, but it was before she was born, and just sort of thinking about what happens in the life of a child that eventually you say, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." But then eventually you say, "There are some things about your light that are sinful." And I don't know, it was just wrestling with some of the things that I found so deeply comforting and encouraging about faith that was
Mm,
introduced to me, and about that, intangible spark within each person, that little light. I love that song,
mm,
and how wonderful it is that I feel like I found it again later.
mm.
But also it's a melancholy song because I'm also thinking about the path to reclaim it, and was it ever anyone else's to dim,
Yes.
and that people dimmed it, and that people sort of had this way of thinking about it in the name of God, and the
Yeah.
same God that I found so much comfort in was so confusing, and it's such a thing to untangle,
It
and
really is.
it's worthwhile to do, but it's such a shame that that happens with people.
Absolutely, and I mean, when I heard it the first time, it truly felt like a little part of like little charity, like child charity. It was healing, because it was so much like because I've been struggling a lot lately with not letting that light just completely go out with just everything going on in the world, and whatnot. But conversations like this, always are so encouraging and bring me back to the place where I'm like, no, 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 no. There's a purpose for this. And there are way more people out there I know that need to hear this. And so that ended up, being kind of like why I started the podcast too. Like you said, just even small platform. I don't have a big platform, but I was in Christian radio again my entire life. Everything was wrapped around Christianity. So even my career, I knew that's what I was going to go into, was like Christian radio. But when I left, I was just kind of lost for a long time. And I knew inside of me I wanted to help people, but I just didn't know how, like especially teenagers that may be going through the same things that I went through with like purity culture or anything like that. And so it pushed me to just say, you know what? This is where we're going. And we're just going to be honest. And I'm going to have every kind of person I can possibly find come on here, share their life story, their experiences, just so they know they have somewhere safe that they can come talk about whatever they want to talk about.
I think the song Revival in my mind, the actual song where you sing about looking for the cross at a yard sale or secondhand store, that just felt so powerful for me because it was that, at least of what I interpreted as, is this searching for this piece of yourself, this piece of your past that you want to reclaim. But you don't want it to be exactly the same. You don't
Yes.
want it to churn your neck green this time. You don't want this sense of this toxic part of that, but you're looking for something pure that ties you back to that. At least that's what I took away from it for me, that I found extremely true for my own journey. You want to say more about that?
No, I loved hearing your interpretation of that lyric, because I actually think you phrased that better than I could have, in the introspective part of what that lyric means. But I started writing that song because I was actually doing that, and I couldn't place why. I think you said it. That's exactly why I was doing it. But I remember like talking to Lizzie and just saying, I really want to get a cross necklace, but I don't want to buy it. Like I want to find it somewhere, and I want to, and I don't want it to be. And so, because if you get like vintage or like thrift store stuff, usually, especially if it's jewelry, it's the good stuff because it won't have greened over time. And so I was like, I'll just find it along my travels. Like I'll just stop into secondhand stores, and I'm sure I'll find a cross necklace. To me, it was such a common thing growing up that people would have like a little like gold or silver cross necklace. So I was like, how hard can it be? And I was really having a hard time finding it. Like I like wasn't finding it. And it was about it was a few months, and I told her, I was like, I really don't want to buy it. It has to be something that you sort of find. But then as that was one of, not like a chore, but it was like something, every week if I was like out getting coffee, I'd like stop into a secondhand. I couldn't find it. And then I started thinking about that this was becoming a weird thing I was doing. Like I'm looking for crosses. And I'm looking for crosses in sort of unlikely places. And then also a bit interesting for me that this thing that was ubiquitous growing up was nowhere to be found in stores across all of Los Angeles. And then it brings other questions that of course inspire me to write songs. Was it that everyone was just keeping theirs, that they never had to take theirs off, and that they just kept it over time, and I was the one that was out there looking? Like, am I the lost sheep here? Or was it that people threw them away? They're not interested, or that thrift stores are turning them away. People don't buy these, So it just brought up a number of questions that I ended up ruminating on that became that song. But the inner work that you described is totally spot on, of like, I think what I was getting at, even though the surface level was truly just the act of looking for a thrift store cross.
Thank you. That just really spoke to me, and I found that.
Yeah,
really
me too.
Thank you for writing those lyrics.
Oh my God,
Thank you for listening.
I've been crying for like the last few days. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Listening to the whole album, I'm just like,
oh man.
It's
Well, I do
beautiful.
appreciate you listening. Thank you so
Oh my God,
much.
I love it. I've listened to you for a long time. Yes, I love all your music, and yeah, you go ahead, Travis.
I was just say you have some tour dates coming up, but I think most of them are overseas, correct?
They are, yeah. They're all in the UK. Hopefully we have some stuff coming on sale or being announced this fall/winter. So stay tuned
Good.
for
Goody,
that.
goody. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'm definitely coming as soon as you get back over here on the East Coast.
that's the
I
goal.
want to
That's
do
the, we'll
it.
see.
Yes. Oh, yes. You got it.
Do you still have roots here in the South, in North South Carolina, Virginia?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. My wife is from North Carolina, so we're
Oh,
there
wonderful.
all the time to see her family.
I love that.
Yay.
Yes, love
What
North.
part
We
of
were
North?
just talking about North Carolina last night. We are just describing to my friend staying with us, and she was like asking about, what's the difference between Charlotte, Wilmington, Raleigh,
Yeah.
Asheville, and we're like, welcome to
Oh,
our
wow.
PowerPoint. Let me tell you
Yeah,
all about it.
exactly. Literally.
So yeah, we go to North Carolina a lot. My parents live in Kentucky,
Okay.
so I'll be in Kentucky next month briefly, and
Nice.
then I go to Nashville all the time. A lot
Mhm.
of the musicians I work with are there.
Yeah.
I was born in South Carolina, so I go through there a little
I
bit.
saw that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a fun fact? I never
That's
lived
crazy.
there beyond being born there, but
Born.
I
Yeah.
I do have fond ties to South Carolina.
Yeah.
That's
So that was
awesome.
Hilton Head. Is that
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's so interesting. One of the most wealthy parts of South Carolina, the Hilton Head
Yeah, I
area
know.
is
People
just.
always say, I've told that to people before because I've actually never been to Hilton Head since I was
Mhm.
born there. And they're like, were you born on a golf course? I was like, no.
That literally is it, though. That's
Yeah.
very accurate.
It's a pretty wealthy area.
Yeah.
I know.
So hopefully some of these dates coming up, you may be back in North Carolina. We got to
I would
get you in
love that.
Asheville.
I would love
I've
it.
never done a show in Asheville. I've
What?
tried before. It hasn't worked out, but I don't think I've ever played in Asheville before. I would love
Okay,
to.
we're
I've heard it's a
we're
great
gonna
music
remedy
scene.
that. We're gonna
Yeah, we
remedy
are
that.
going to remedy that.
Yeah.
Travis has got some places. We will
Yeah,
get you
let me
down.
know if you know some good venues. I'll put them in our deck
Yeah,
for places we pitch to.
Yeah,
that would be
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. And actually, speaking of your wife, Lizzie,
Mhm.
eldest daughter on is maybe my favorite song just about off of your
Oh,
album.
thank
And
you.
it's so beautiful. And my husband, this is probably why. My husband is actually the one that really helped me start questioning, because like he was like, Charity, honey, the yeah, he was a feminist. He would call himself, and I wouldn't even do it. And I was like,
Mhm.
I tell people all the time, my husband turned me into a feminist, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I got very lucky. Okay, very lucky. But when he heard that song, he, and I'm from North Carolina, born and raised also, and he said, this could have been written about you. Like, it
Mhm.
was so similar, and it was just so beautiful to me, and I just love it so much, and it shows your heart and like your love for her, and it's just, I just wanted you to know how beautiful
Oh,
that song
thank
was.
you.
Yeah, it's
Thank you. I'm very proud of
gorgeous.
that one.
You should be.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Speaking of your wife, Lizzie, you will be celebrating, is it 7 years this year of marriage, or have already?
I can't do math, but we
I
got married in
know.
2018.
Yeah.
So yeah, our
I think
anniversary is on the 4th. It's coming up.
Oh,
Oh,
congrats.
wow. So
Thank
just a
you.
Yeah,
few
that's
days from
awesome.
now.
I know. I'm very
Happy
excited.
anniversary.
Thank
Happy
you.
anniversary. Yeah, that's
Thank
awesome.
you.
And congrats on the baby. She is so cute.
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
she's the best.
So
So was
adorable.
the wedding in North Carolina?
No, it was actually in Malibu. It was in California. So
Mm.
Lizzie used to say, what was it? How would she say it? It's like North Carolina by chance, California by the grace of God. Because I think for us,
Sure.
well, she's from North Carolina and she loves North Carolina. Like that
Mhm.
is like totally part of her family's all there. So we do love North Carolina.
Yeah.
However,
Hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of I think it's called like astrocartography, where it's like astrologists will kind of see, like, look at your chart and be like, these
Yeah.
are certain places in the world that like align with you or something.
Mm.
I have actually never had that done for myself.
I wanna do
However,
that.
I would bet that Los Angeles is on there because I remember
Really.
when I
Mhm.
was visiting here for a school program and I took like a wrong turn and I wound up in West Hollywood, and I remember driving through and I'd never seen a street that was just lined with rainbow flags before, and
Oh,
this was a long time ago, and so
yeah.
I was out, maybe I wasn't out to my family, but I was out to a lot of people, but
Mhm.
I would always sort of come out And a lot of I've heard I'm stealing my friend's phrase, but she was like, whenever I was coming out to people, I felt like I was delivering bad news. And that's how I
Oh,
felt for a long time of like,
yeah.
so I was out to people, but it wasn't where I am now, and where
Yes.
I have a rich community and friends that support me, and a wonderful neighborhood, all this stuff. So I still felt like I was
Mm,
having this like monkey on my back of bad news of being gay. And so driving through this
mm.
neighborhood where I just saw, rainbow flags from restaurants, and just
Yep.
people in the vet's office, and just all it's so
Wow.
normal, but so many gay people in
Yeah.
one neighborhood.
Yep.
Mhm.
It was I just remember making a promise to myself then, and I lived in North Carolina at the time, but I was like, "I will live here one day. I have to live here one day just to see what it is."
Mhm. What
And
it's
I
like.
kept that promise to myself, and I
Great.
think that for Lizzie and I, this place, California, Los Angeles, feels so much like home. We've lived in
Mm.
a bunch of different neighborhoods since
Yep.
then, but it's just I love it more and more
Overall.
every yeah, over and so it's a really, really special place for us.
I would
Good.
be
I'm so
very
glad you
curious,
both are there.
yeah, to do that because I think it would be similar for me because,
Mhm.
again, grew up very Christian. I don't know if you've heard of Hawk Nelson, the band, but
I do, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's good. Okay, good. I knew you knew Reliant K and like
That's
Switchfoot. So,
right. Yeah.
well, their song California. Me
That's a
and my
good one.
cousin, yes, and me and my cousin Jessica, we our entire, like, teenagehood, we're like, "We're getting to California. We're
Mhm.
gonna do it," and then we never did it. She's in Charlotte at least, but,
I do love Charlotte. I do love
Charlotte's
Charlotte.
great. Yeah, she loves Charlotte. I go there a lot to see her,
Mhm.
but now my husband, we're looking around, again, for he works from home, he's in tech and stuff, and so we're kind of looking at places to potentially move or whatever, and
Mhm.
that has been one that's popped up again,
Really?
and in my soul, it is just kind of like to live on the West Coast and to be over there
Mhm.
with people that I feel so similar to me that,
Mhm.
and just are so welcoming. Yeah, so it's a possibility. We'll see.
Though I will pause just to put in a plug for Asheville, North Carolina.
I
That's
know
There,
Travis. He's trying
this
to get
little
me
so
there.
city
it's
is different.
true. When we were talking last night with my friend about the different spots in
Mhm.
North Carolina, Lizzie said, "If I were to ever go back to North Carolina, I would wanna live in
Mhm.
Asheville." I was
Yeah,
saying Wilmington because I am partial
Mhm.
to the beach.
I do love
Um,
Wilmington too.
Yeah,
but Asheville is really different. It's a really special place.
Amazing.
it
It's
really is.
amazing.
It
We go
really
as much
is.
as we can, my husband and I. Now Travis has moved there, and
Mhm.
I would if we were gonna stay in North Carolina, that is where we would move. I
Yeah.
know give me dr I know. I'm trying to work on my husband, Travis, I know.
How do you
But
think it happens that Asheville has become so sort of inclusive and progressive in
I
its
have no
values
idea.
as a city?
I
I think
would really
it's
Travis, yeah, you might have an idea about that.
yeah, I think one of the things is the mountain culture has always had a way about being caring, kind, and
Mhm.
connected. So,
Mhm.
so I believe there were probably long periods of time in the Asheville area where people were things from outside didn't affect the way you treated each other. So
Right.
Yes.
I like to think there's a long history and heritage in the mountain areas where people are much more open and accepting
Yeah.
than sometimes media portrays.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, once I think that kind of began to be noticed, Asheville began to grow with people of
Yeah.
like mind, and more people started coming of that like mind.
Yep.
And Asheville really began to boom in the late 80s, early 90s was kind of a revitalization. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people who had more progressive values came because the temperatures are a little cooler, the
Yeah.
mountains are cool, the culture was just pretty artistic, and that
Yeah,
Mhm.
attracted a
very.
whole demographic of people. So I think there's a lot of different things that add up, but I like to think, and this is an anecdotal, that the mountain culture has always been very kind and giving to each other in the community.
Mhm. They
Mhm.
So
have.
some of the elements of hate that seem to thrive outside of the mountains didn't quite penetrate
Mhm.
the places here. But
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
just what I like to believe. Whether it's true or not, I don't know.
We'll live in that fantasy and just
Yeah.
pretend maybe that that it is. Because yeah,
Yeah.
Asheville's incredible. It's funny, I'm sure you've heard this, Travis, but growing up the way I did, all I ever heard was, "Asheville's the little San Francisco," and it was not in a positive way that they were saying
Yeah.
this,
Mhm.
and now if I ever hear anybody say that, I always
Yeah.
look at them and say, that is exactly why I want to move there. Like this is not
It's
a
a wonderful
negative
place.
thing. Yeah, very
It's
not
a
a
wonderful
negative
place.
thing like you think you were
Yeah, but
saying.
we have to get Semler to play Asheville now. Like that's
I'm
a
on your
challenge.
side. I
We're
want to do
doing
Yeah,
it.
we're gonna do it. We're gonna figure it out.
Yeah,
We'll
I've
get you
done, let
there.
me see, I've played, I've done Charlotte, I've done Raleigh.
Mhm.
I think those are the only 2 North Carolina spots I've hit. But I've
Yeah.
done Raleigh like 3 times. To be fair, it is
Okay.
where my wife's family's from, so
Yeah.
it,
I
Sure,
it
love
makes
makes
sense.
Raleigh though.
combine a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah,
stuff
I
there.
do
yeah,
love Raleigh.
yeah.
Yes, I get that.
Well, you and your music would be loved and appreciated here.
Very much.
You may know this, but Flammy Grant is
Mhm.
from Asheville. That's
Yes,
Flamey's
love
home.
Flamey. Yeah.
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
was actually who I've talked to in the past. I can't remember why this fell through or what was happening, but there was like a small tour that was going to happen. And then I was looking into Asheville spots and Flamey sent me over some recommendations. So it's somewhere in it's going to be in a deck somewhere, but we haven't pitched to Asheville recently, but who
Oh my
knows,
God.
maybe this fall
Well,
or
Travis
winter.
does have a church. I will just say that.
Interesting.
I'm
Yeah,
just gonna throw that out
absolutely.
there that I know he probably could offer. And I would also love to get Derek Webb too. Let's just get all of y'all. Let's just get
Yeah.
everybody.
No, Flamey's going to be here in September.
Oh,
What?
nice.
Oh, that's
Flamey and Jennifer
I'm gonna
Knapp
be
will be in
gone.
Asheville in September.
That's
Cool.
right. Your beautiful wife
Mhm.
sent me that yesterday, Travis, and I had to tell her I was
Mhm.
gonna be at the beach, and that about killed
Yeah.
me. But yeah.
One of the things I was thinking about before this interview, though, was like this. I want to ask you the question around how does yearning play into our spirituality?
Mm.
Because that's a word I'm hearing from a lot of people I'm coming in connection with is yearning. So I'm just
Mhm.
curious. Like I'm not going to ask how you describe it. But what is it? How does it play into faith, or how does it play into your faith?
I love that you use that word because I've been working on some new music and
Hmm.
that word has come up a bunch.
Wow.
And so it's interesting that you're hearing that you're tapping into it because I feel so strongly that yearning is one of my most significant muses across the board. I think I I think because it's like if something is always it's always just out of reach is how I
Yeah.
feel sometimes. My understanding on situations,
Yep.
on divinity, it's never I'll never be able to just hold it in my hands.
Mhm.
Um because it's just sort of like just and if you do, it's water slipping through and it's gone again and
Mhm.
you have to go reach out again. And so I think it's the yearning, I lean into it because it encourages me to find the practice and the meditation of
Mhm.
continued curiosity. If I'm always yearning, if I'm
Yes.
always searching, with peace and stillness, like feeling secure, but also knowing that there's more out there, then I'm always sort of moving forward.
Mhm.
That is sort of forward motion towards whatever whatever happens in the future, whatever end comes, it just keeps me in this motion of curiosity, and it's almost like exercising. You know,
Mhm.
I'm always yearning. I'm always um, wondering. I'm trying to piece things together, leaning into that as my muse, and will feel creatively inspired, almost to an annoying degree. To be
Yeah,
honest, like
I know.
because it's an unsolvable puzzle that I show up to every day with my
Mhm.
coffee cup and I'm sitting at my piano trying to piece it together,
Yeah.
knowing that I will not get there.
Mm.
So it's cool that you use that word because I was thinking about how I was wondering if it was like kind of weird how much I think about yearning. Like
Hmm.
how
Bad.
much I was thinking I was like, is that just like a gay thing? I was like the gay desire to yearn. Like I don't know why I do that, but it's cool that you said that. I'm like, okay, I think this is more
Yeah.
universal.
Yeah.
I really do, and I love what you said. Whether it be divinity, art, whatever that we're yearning to create or connect with. There's something almost. I mean, I hate to again to use language that may feel like baggage, but it's the language I know. It's like a
Yeah.
holy curiosity, a holy
Mhm.
sense of something that just keeps driving me
Mhm,
to know that there's more. Even when I attain this, it's like, oh no, there's more.
mhm.
Um, there's a great Counting Crows song. Hopefully you're familiar with the band
Mhm.
Counting
Mhm.
Crows. And Adam Duritz has this lyric where he's singing about the Michelangelo painting. And of course, God is reaching out God's hand toward humanity. and it's just almost there. It's just
Almost.
it's
Mhm.
almost there. And then Adam Durrett says, we're never quite as close as we are led to understand.
Yeah.
And that's just one that's
Really
always, that to me feels like that holy curiosity. We just know that we're
Yes.
never quite as close as
Yep.
everyone wants to think they are,
They are. Mhm.
or
Yeah.
portray that they are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Absolutely.
it's it's really powerful when you get to the point in deconstruction of like I don't know. That's
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
really
Yep.
powerful place to land at, and the surrender of it, I think,
Mhm.
is really beautiful and can be
Yep.
used as a conduit to just open yourself up to the mystery and the fullness of God. Is just, I don't know, I'm not
Yep.
sure. You could be right and I could be wrong, and I
Exactly.
Absolutely.
surrender to all of that.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I really just resonate with that so much, similar that, here I've dedicated my life to this
Mhm.
faith.
Mhm.
My undergraduate degree is religious studies, my master's of divinity. I'm working on a doctoral degree. Everything I have done has been dedicated to this faith.
Mhm.
And from an educational standpoint and professional too, in some ways. But the more I obtain in terms of knowledge, the more I'm aware I don't know anything.
Yep.
I really, truly don't know anything.
Mhm,
And that to
Mhm.
me, maybe the greatest thing I can learn
mhm,
is the question and doubt is beautiful. And
Mhm.
it to me really resonates to more of what true faith actually is, which is
Absolutely.
leaning into something that has no absolutes.
No, that we don't
mhm.
know. Mhm. That's funny because Semler actually has a line that I am gonna get tattooed on my body. I
Whoa.
know.
Mhm.
Haven't done it yet, but I am getting it. I'm so excited. Because it like you're talking about, once you let go of that and you're just like, "I don't know anything," how freeing that is. But your line where you say, "There is courage in doubt," that the first time I heard that, it was like, I can ask questions. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's
Mhm,
okay if I don't have every answer, and it's okay if I can't come to certain conclusions or, everything. And that was just such a beautiful line to me and spoke so deeply to
mhm.
what I felt.
Well,
Mhm.
for me, when I was writing that, it was at a place of like, God just has to be bigger. This story
Yeah.
has to be bigger than the narrow framework that
Yes.
is being handed to me over and over again. And sometimes it's being shoved at me over and over again. I have to believe that this is beyond us all.
Yeah.
And that I was given this brain and these experiences, and now I'm sort of naturally, I have some questions about this. I grew
Mhm.
up in a rectory. My dad was an Episcopal priest, so I saw sort of the business of church, as
Mhm.
well as my dad being a really good and decent person and a good
Mhm.
man. So
Mm.
I saw things that were consistent, but then I also saw things of like, "Well, but this is like, what is church, and like
Yeah.
what it is a job, and
Mhm.
any job is stressful, and like how did this come to be, why, how was the church formed, and what things are working, what things are not working." And I have to believe that um God becomes so small if it's like this principle that I'm in trouble for
Yes.
because I was
Oh,
Mm.
asking questions,
yes.
and that felt really limiting of
Mhm.
divinity for me. And so in writing of faith, that was a song that I wanted to be very like declarative, in a number of ways, declarative, like I still have faith. I'm
Mm.
still here. And
Yes.
also there are problems that I have with
Mhm.
organized religion, and I'm
Yep.
gonna name them.
Yes.
Mhm.
And if you take that as me being irreverent to God, that's kind of your own interpretation that I'm not
Exactly.
responsible for, because that's not how I'm writing it. I'm writing about um, people, and I'm writing about my frustrations with people who, to me, use the Lord's name in vain to harm
Mhm.
others,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
Yep.
build up these massive industries. Um,
Absolutely.
and God can hold all of this because I know I still have faith. And so God is
Yeah.
with me. I don't
Mhm.
have any doubts about that.
Yeah. I think you said it so well. I mean, even in the beginning, we were talking about, how do we view the world politically, and saying that there are no absolutes. There's not all one party or all the other. The same thing with religious systems and structures. We have to be willing to question power. and we
Yes.
have to be willing to call it out when it's harmful.
Absolutely.
And heaven knows that religious systems have done some terrible harm in so many different ways. Have there been good come out of it? Of course. I mean, we love hospitals and education and those things that have been
Yeah.
beautiful creations from structures, but there's been a lot of harm too. And I think that to me is, at least for what you're speaking to in those lyrics, is, hey, we're going to call out the harm. We're going to call out the
Yep.
things that aren't healthy, and know that there can still be beauty in something, but we're not just going to give it a free pass. I think, just for me, I feel like so much of my work that I'm truly feel called to is reclaiming that, the purity of that,
Yes.
the good news, literally
Mhm.
the good news of love for all humanity, no
Mhm.
matter what. The core of this divine being that loves, or at least we hope there's the divine being that loves and cares and believes in us. That is the work that, for I think many of us who are still carrying the label Christian, want to carry that gospel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also that God, sent his one and only son who lived among us and lived in
Mhm.
the margins with those who were othered and spoke truth to power, and let that be heartening for you in your walk as you do the same.
Yeah.
Right.
As you show up for your neighbors, as you,
Mhm.
question and hold people accountable to authority, that you speak up for justice, that you protest when things
Yes.
are um when harm is being perpetuated, and that's more of the good news of when you
Mhm.
like when I
Mhm.
talk about the good news of Jesus Christ, and people, and understandably because of how that's been weaponized, you like brace up, and I'm like, no, I want to talk about
Yes.
the son of God who like
Yeah.
walked here on earth, and look at what was that testimony
Yes.
of how he walked. How can I try and do that in my day to day?
Exactly. It's funny because I actually tell people I still have said lots of people that would not see me as Christian for my views, being affirming or being,
Mhm.
just all kinds of things. And caring about the marginalized, and like Christians have just been so silent about, like, Gaza and this
Mhm.
famine and all these babies and just starving to death. And I've looked at these people and I've said, I am doing what you taught me my entire
Mm.
life out of the Bible. And you now are showing me that I can't reconcile this, like,
Mhm.
where I'm trying to do what you have told me and what Jesus did when he was on earth, watch his actions and emulate those. And then I have the same people that taught me that now that are like, she's going to hell. She's not,
Yeah.
in this box still, this, and it's just so disheartening. But at the same time, seeing like Travis, like you were saying, seeing all these little communities just come together and redefine how we see church and what it can be and everything has been so encouraging.
Well, that's more good news too. I mean,
Yes.
communities like what we've talked about would have just been totally radical to me growing up. I mean, my early Google searches and YouTube searches when I was like gay Christian, it was all like ex-gay testimonies and like ways to not
Yeah,
be gay, and
I know.
and it gets you on into a very like spooky side of Christianity, to be kind of
Absolutely.
Mhm.
candid. And
Mhm.
I
No,
love
yeah,
that now there are resources that there could be a teenager in their room doing the same Google searches, and they'll find podcasts like this or spaces or other people just sharing their music, art, or whatever, and just letting people know that you are possible. I think
absolutely.
representation is important because it represents that there's a possibility of a future for you. And there was a time in my life
Absolutely.
where I like living beyond a certain age felt incompatible to me. Like I
Mhm.
just didn't understand how
Me
that would
too.
happen. It's
Mhm.
crucial to represent just a pluralism of belief within the Christian umbrella. That
Yeah.
if you want to, if you're done with religion and God and Christianity, or whatever, that there's no sort of burden from me to be like, no, 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 like I'm not trying to like convert anybody, or I don't really
Yeah.
believe in evangelizing or anything like that. But what I do believe in is a huge tent for all people, and especially within people who grew up within a Christian tent, that you would
Mhm.
find resources, community, and people just know that you
Yes.
belong, you're valuable, we're happy that you're here.
Yep.
um, and you know what you always say when you go to church, welcome in, like, just come
Well,
on in,
exactly.
come as you are. We're happy that,
Come
happy
as
to
you
have you, and
are.
let's see what happens.
Absolutely. And it's one of the first times when I first kind of started questioning it too. I have a very dear trans friend, and we've known each other our entire lives. And I remember asking when they were about 9 years old, because I'm 4 years older than them, because they like we're just so like tomboy and everything. But I just remember asking, like, do you wish you were a boy? And he was like, that would be amazing, because we were in this little culture where we couldn't even understand what we were kind of like talking about.
Yeah.
And so when he came out trans, and it was a very big deal, obviously, and stuff. I remember talking to his parents, because they are kind of like second parents to me, and saying and telling them that story, and saying, now you tell me how your 9-year-old daughter knew at that point something wasn't right,
Mhm.
within, she didn't feel right about herself. And I never forgot that. And so that is one of the things that I was just like, okay. And I started to see the hurt that was put on him
Mhm.
after, he came out, and it was, and I was just done at that point.
I was curious, along your journey, who was the first person who carried the title Christian that you began to realize, oh, okay, I can be who I am. I can be who God created me to be, and I'm going to be loved, and I'm Christian.
Mm.
And there is no question about, can I be gay or Christian? Can I, or whatever? Who was it someone on a national stage, more personal? Who was the first Christian in your life that helped you reconcile that you're good, you're who you are?
There 3 people come to mind. First is my wife, because we actually bonded over being raised in the church, and I remember asking her one night of, you know, do you how do you square it? Obviously, we're dating, so I know that we are we're
Yeah,
together,
exactly.
but how do you think of this,
Mhm.
subject? And she just said, "I just always knew ever since I was a little kid that God loved me."
Hmm.
Oh,
And she has this incredible sense of self that
mhm,
I was so drawn to when we met. This
mhm,
this sense of self and confidence, and talk about, like, a light from
mm.
within that just has guided her and her principles and values, and
Wow.
I'm just wanting to go anywhere that the way that she brings beauty into every single room or
Oh,
space, the way that, like, a small thing is, like, if you look at my camera roll versus her camera roll, we will have had the exact same day. And her camera roll looks like something you'd put in an art gallery because of how
yep,
she sees the world and what
the
she
world. Mm.
captures versus, me. I don't know what I did. I'm taking, like, screenshots of memes or something, and so
Same.
I've you know,
Yeah.
I felt when she said that, and she has this sense of knowledge and wisdom and peace always, always she's had that, and she said it matter
Mm.
of fact, "I just always knew God loved me ever since I was a little girl." That was one person that I think
Mhm.
that, really inspired me to look for that. I think my dad as well, I'm not we've had a lot of conversations and a lot of growth,
Mm.
but what was really clear to me, and now especially as a parent, I get emotional thinking about it.
Mm.
He was just like, I love God, and he has his master's in divinity too. So the man's
Yeah.
read the Bible.
Yes.
And he's like, "I love God, and I love," and he was, like, one of the easiest people I ever had to come out with. Like, might have been the
Mm.
easiest person. He was like, "I'm
Oh,
just so happy
wonderful.
for you," and I think that I
That's
had
beautiful.
it
It is
wasn't,
beautiful.
yeah, it was just one of those 2 formative people, and then the last one is a little, it's not super out of left field because gay icon, but Lady Gaga, when
Well, hell yeah. Exactly.
her she talked about her Christian values in some interview, and I remember that was, and how important her faith was to her, and how, and I think it was at a concert where she was calling out bigotry from a politician, and I can't remember the details, but she was
Mm.
at her piano, she's like, "And I'm a Christian, and I want you to hear from a Christian at my
Mhm.
show that
Yeah.
that's wrong and that doesn't represent it." And that was things like that would
Mind
just really
blowing.
stick with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
That
they do.
she, yeah, that she is everything that she is,
Mhm.
and also that she is calling herself a Christian and standing up
Mhm.
for marginalized people at her sold out show on with that influence and value in her life. So those
Yes.
are 3 people that come to mind for me.
Oh, that's
Those are
so beautiful.
wonderful.
I love that the first 2, are family. I mean,
Yeah.
they're people who are closest to you, and
Mhm.
that's
That is
really beautiful.
beautiful, especially in the South, because that is very rare to have the parents be the most supporting
Mm.
on that. Yes, that's beautiful. I love it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm
Well,
just curious, do
yeah.
you and your dad still talk, like have
Oh,
theological
yeah.
conversations?
Yeah.
Like
We
I could,
do we do talk. My dad and I have a great relationship. He has helped me. Sometimes we do this thing where he'll create merch because he's retired now, so he does a lot of I would say
Okay.
like high level crafting, like high level
Mhm.
crafting. Like Michael's hates to see him coming. Like they know that he's about to buy a bunch of supplies. And he'll make what we've done at shows, which I hope to continue, is that my dad will sort of create. I'll have like the merch through a merch supplier through that like more traditional channel, and then my dad will create like a line of merch with thrifted clothing from myself or friends that we would have donated to Goodwill or whatever, and he'll repurpose that clothing, and then we'll sell it at the show. And 100% of what we make from the dad merch, is what we call it, goes
That's
to a charity or an organization that needs our help.
that's
So after the
amazing.
wildfires, we donated 100% of that to mutual aid, and yeah, it's something I would love to do. But so, and when we were doing that, it was really hands on. I was effectively working with my dad,
Yeah.
and that was
that's
um,
great.
it's fun because I would see what his merch designs were, and it would let me know a little bit more about his own
Yeah.
theological persuasions. And I'm like, Dad, the idea is that we sell a lot of this, so some of this is getting really niche. It would be like He'd be like it'd be like, veterans who are like veterans of the Gulf War who are proud allies. I'm like, I'm just not seeing a lot of those people at a Semler show, but if
But
you wanna make that for
I will
you,
buy that
then
shirt.
yeah,
I don't care.
yeah.
I'll buy it. Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes the stuff that he would make and I would post on my Instagram story is a little bit of a joke of like, we got a new dad merch, pitch just dropped or something, and people be like, I unironically would buy that. That's very
Oh,
funny.
no.
oh,
Literally, unironically, I would wear
yeah,
that. Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, I think there's because I'm thinking through my own lens here. I'm 47, so I have adult children who are beginning their career and what they're doing, and all in their young 20s. But regardless, I'm thinking in my mind, how cool would it be to be able to collaborate with my child on the
Oh,
things they're working on, and
Mhm.
part of what they do and what I'm trained to do intersects, and like us being able to do that, I guess
mhm.
vicariously now I'm kind of living through your dad and saying, oh my gosh, that's so
How
beautiful.
can I do this?
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was funny because he made this merch line, and then I was heading out on tour, and he wasn't gonna, come to any of the shows because he was gonna watch Francis with my mom,
Mhm.
Gotcha.
and then leading up to it, my mom, like, took me aside, and she was like, "Your father would really like to come to some of the," and I was like, "Okay, okay." So then I have photos of him, like, behind the merch booth, like, holding up the shirts that he made and everything, and he was just fully, like, there with my best friend who is a tour manager, like,
Oh
selling
my
merch,
god.
and he, like, loves being part of
Yeah.
the Semler experience. And so it's true that when we hit the road, a lot of times it's like it is a family affair, and that is very
So,
special.
I am so thankful for you that is your experience. That is beautiful. Oh my god, I love your dad. That's
Me too.
incredible. Yeah, that is amazing, truly. Truly, truly. Because one of the lines I will say in Eldest Daughter that resonates with me, when you talk about your wife having hurt left from her father, I have some of that because he's still very
Mhm,
much in that, very conservative kinda MAGA world, and so
mhm,
just even hearing that, and so when I hear these other beautiful stories, it gives me so much hope, you know, and I get to see my husband with our son. We have 1 son, and I just see him raising him in a way that is, it's also healing a little bit of charity, also a little charity because I'm
mhm.
seeing my child is getting what I always wanted, and it's
Yeah.
just it's beautiful. And yeah.
Charity, can I ask
Yes,
one selfish question?
absolutely.
And similar, may I ask one
You
selfish?
may, you absolutely may.
Yeah, ask her, please.
So part of what I do and part of the passion I have is mental health care, and I operate a nonprofit that provides mental health for folks regardless of their situation, their financial situation.
Mm,
So we see a lot of young individuals who live in a very rural culture that will not accept them for who they are. A lot of them haven't come out to their parents, haven't come out to anyone. We serve a lot of folks dealing with that right now. And I'm just curious, if you could speak to your 13-year-old self, what would be one encouraging word, something I can take back or this podcast can send back? Because some of these kids will be listening. And I just want them to know they're loved, but also what brought you through? What word would you give them?
I would say you are not as alone as you may feel that you are. That there are people who love you, and those people may surprise you. That if you have one good friend who's in your corner, you have a lot.
Yeah.
Finding comfort in music and media that gives you hope that there's life beyond this can be life-saving, and that you should find that. Find a show, find characters, find music, movies that you can escape to, until you can find your own safe haven, which you absolutely will. And I know it's annoying to hear, it just takes some time, but you are worth sticking around for and giving yourself that time to see how good things can get. And I am proof of that. I'm absolutely proof of that.
That was beautiful. Absolutely. Thank you. Because, there are a lot of teens and younger people in our town, especially my town, that will mean a lot to. And so we really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely.
You have been incredible. And is there anything you want to plug? I know you're doing a couple shows overseas, but
come see me in Amsterdam.
He's coming to Nashville soon, guys. It's fine.
Hopefully I'll be seeing you in Nashville soon, and stay tuned for some new music that's in the works. And
I love it.
I hope everyone takes care of themselves and each other. And we have a live album. What am I doing? I have a live album coming out tomorrow. Sorry.
What?
I should have said that. Sorry.
Okay,
I forgot.
beautiful.
Wow, that's great.
We have a live album recorded here in LA. I'm so frazzled. Yeah.
I love this. So the live album, this is going to come out on this coming Sunday. So it will be released. So I'm very excited.
Already be out.
Everybody right now, stop what you're doing and go listen to it right now.
Go listen to the live album. Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we hope to talk to you again very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, gosh. Thank you for your time. Yes. Thank you so much.
I'll see you later.
Okay,
see you soon.
bye. See you soon.